Good morning and welcome to the first of two videos that are going to walk you through the expectations for your final research paper. The guidelines for this paper can be found in the Week 9 module, along with the images that go along with the various paper topics. So the goal of this video is to walk you through kind of my expectations for the paper and go a little bit more in depth than what you actually see in the paper guidelines. The paper itself is due on December 8th, but you have an outline and introductory thesis statement due on Sunday, November 12th. So hopefully this will help you get started on the process. The paper is going to be about 4 to 5 pages, but I emphasize it should be closer to 5 pages. And if you go over that, that's also a good thing. If you're doing any less than 4 pages, you do not have enough time to properly vet these assignments, the various topics you're going to be given. So I encourage you to think of that as really more like 5 full pages, even though it says 4 to 5. The goal for this paper assignment is to help you develop your skills for visual and written analysis and relate them to a specific work of art. We've done a little bit of this already so far through your art museum paper and the wiki project. But in this case, you're going to be asked a specific question that helps you go a little bit more in depth into these images. And then you're going to incorporate research into your analysis. A major component of art history is the ability to research and do scholarly academic research, that is. So this assignment will have you doing both of them. There are some predetermined topics for the assignment. We'll talk about what they are, but I really would like to encourage that there be no more than 4 students per topic. If you're doing more than that, first of all, there isn't going to be enough research really to go around because I expect you to use resources from the library. But I also anticipate that you will really need to be able to use my resources that I have, and I won't want to be giving them out to more than about 4 students. To help you select a topic, this week, in this coming week's module, there is available, this one here, the topic selection sign up. So I want you to list the topic that you actually want to work on this page. You'll have till the end of the week to complete it. So we are going to talk a little bit more in depth about what kind of research I want from you, but the expectations for the research are that they be scholarly or academic sources. If you're not sure what that is, I will go over that a little bit more clearly in the next video. But anything that you get from the textbook, that's worthwhile. However, that should be kind of your preliminary resource and not your primary source. Many of these images are not either in the textbook or else not fully researched there. So I want that to be kind of your jumping off point, not necessarily your primary source. You can use JSTOR, which I know some of you used for the wiki project, and I'll walk you through in the next video how to access that and how to use it through the library website. You may not, however, use random internet sources, and I will show you what that looks like, but if it is a blog, if it doesn't have an academic or professional association with it, it is not something that I want you using, so I will try and show you a little bit what that looks like. And I do anticipate that you will go to the library and actually check books out. The Connolly Library has an incredible resource, and I know that it feels increasingly outdated to actually go to a library and be there. I will say that there are a lot of online sources available at this point, so even if you go to the library's website, you may not need to specifically go there, but there will also be sources that you have to go and see in the library, and I encourage you not to feel intimidated by that or annoyed by that. That is actually the best resource for you to use. So if we get into the requirements here a little bit, you're going to start with an outline for the paper. This needs to include your thesis and the main ideas that you're going to be working on. So really spend this week not just figuring out what topic you're going to be working on, but kind of putting together what it is you're going to be writing about. There is an assignment coming up that helps you learn how to write a thesis statement. So if that's something that you're not super comfortable with, definitely work on that assignment earlier in the week. But also if you're struggling, I want you to reach out to me so that I can help you work through how to write a thesis statement. A lot of times I find that when students are writing a research paper, they kind of forget the standard structure that a paper goes in. So just in case you're not sure, it is perfectly okay to use the introduction, 3 body paragraphs, conclusion, basic formatting. You should have an introduction that introduces the topic that you're going to be writing about. What is the question you're answering, and what is the answer that you're going to be providing? Then you want to have various paragraphs in the middle that walk through that question and your answer to it, including research that supports what you're saying. And then a conclusion that ties all these main points back together. And it should not be the same as that introductory paragraph. You shouldn't just be saying the exact same thing over again, but it should bring all of your ideas together into a unified overall point. You will want to reference at some point some of the things we've been talking about so far in class. Formal elements, iconography, these are helpful. However, I want you to remember that these papers are not a formal analysis. You are not doing the same thing in this paper that you have done in the research paper for the museum or in the wiki pages. This is going to go beyond that. You have a specific question to answer, so make sure that you are really paying attention to what that is and thinking carefully about what your answer is. You can definitely reference your textbook as a source. I will also show you in a moment one of the resources that I've created for you, the Art History Writing Guide, because most of you have probably not written an art historical paper before, and that's available as one of your sources through the class. Let's see, where do I go next? I really encourage you to be very thoughtful about the editing of your papers. Please don't just write it the night before and not read it through even once and send it to me. You really need to check for grammar, punctuation, spelling, flow of the paper. I encourage you to do some peer editing, get somebody else to read it for you. It is really, really useful to have had a couple of other eyes on it before you send it in. But even if you don't do that, please check for grammar in particular and spelling. I find them very distracting. And if you are filling your paper with grammatical and spelling errors, I will notice them more than what you're saying. So please, those are the easiest things to work on and make accurate. You are also going to need to include in-text or parenthetical citations throughout the paper. So if you have a source that is responsible for a main idea that you're presenting, you need to make sure that you credit that source in the paper, and we can take a look in the research portion of the video at more closely what that looks like. Be very careful of including biographical information on the artist. These are not biographies. I know that was a component of the wiki pages, but in a research paper like this, there is only a very small portion of biographical information that will typically be relevant. Some of these papers, the topics will include some biography, and in others, biography will not play in at all. So I want you to be thoughtful about it. I do not need a whole paragraph or multiple paragraphs that outlines where the artist was born, when they died, how many siblings they had, what their parents' occupations were. These are all things that are going to be irrelevant to your paper. So please be thoughtful about what it is you're actually including that's biographical, and always ask the question, does this actually enhance my paper? What is changed by me including it? Does it really make my thesis stronger, or is it just filler that makes the paper look longer? So the final paper is due by December 8th. You'll have to upload it to Canvas. Because this is your final project and it is a large portion of your grade, I will not be accepting late papers. And if for some reason you need an extension, the time to ask me is not December 8th. It's not even really December 7th, but really not December 8th. And it's definitely not December 9th and later. So if there is something going on that means you cannot have that paper to me on December 8th, I need to know about it in advance so I can decide whether or not to give you an extension. If you're asking me on December 8th, I will say no to an extension. The bibliographic format that I want you to use for the paper is MLA. So definitely make sure that you brush up on what MLA is. That Art Historical Writing Guide has examples for it, as well as a link to an online resource that helps you format how to do MLA if you're not familiar with it. I want to caution you not to use the Microsoft Word versions of the bibliography template that says it's MLA. It is actually not MLA. It numbers the sources. The sources should instead be listed alphabetically by the last name of the author. There should be no numbers involved. Things don't need to be in caps. I want you to really pay attention to the way these bibliographies look, because it is important that they be done accurately. You also may not use Wikipedia as a source. I said no online sources, but I really cannot handle seeing Wikipedia used as a source. It's an open source encyclopedia. Anybody can add anything there. It is not verified scholarly material, so please do not use it. As I mentioned at the beginning, this is scholarly research. You are expected to have 4 to 5 scholarly sources, which will be due in the bibliography the same day as the paper. And again, visit the library. I really encourage it. The formatting of the paper should be pretty standard. Don't make it bigger than it needs to be. I'll see through it. It's a digital copy. I know how long your papers are. Normal fonts, normal spacing. Can be double spaced though. Titles of works of art should either be italicized or in quotations, but the names of artists should be just capitalized and incorporated into the text. You should only refer to an artist either by their full name or their last name. If you're writing about Pablo Picasso, don't start writing about Pablo. He's either Pablo Picasso or Picasso. Please note that bibliographies do not count towards the overall page count of your paper, and you also do not need a cover page. Putting a header or a footer in your paper that has the name, paper title, date, etc. is sufficient. So please be conscious of that. And any images that you use other than the specific one assigned, just put those at the end of the paper as well. I don't need them throughout the paper. I have a zero tolerance policy for plagiarism. If I read your paper and I suspect that it is even remotely plagiarized, I will research it. I will look into it. I will find the sources. And if I discover that you've plagiarized, you will receive a 0. And if I think it is serious enough, I will take it to the university. So please avoid that. There are so many ways to avoid it by quoting information into your paper. And if you're wondering if you're properly citing something and you're not sure, please reach out to me. I definitely want to talk to you about it. So if in doubt, quote it. But on the other hand, I don't want papers that are just filled with ad nauseum quotes. I want to hear your writing. So you should be able to paraphrase the things that you're saying to make them into your own words. I don't need a paper filled with quotes, but I also don't need things that have been ripped off entirely and not quite quoted. So please be considerate of the compromise between a piece of information that should be quoted. It was said so well by the original author that you can't re-say it better. That's a good quote. But if it is very basic information that is common knowledge, just put it in your own words. It doesn't need to be a quote. But you also should not just rip off the way somebody else wrote it. So I'm going to do a follow-up video now that walks you through the topics, and then we'll do a follow-up video after that that references how to do the research for this project.